Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rob. This is RH Midwest Comics, and today we're going to talk about Golden Age books, and specifically Golden Age books from the most recent auction on Comic Connect. And the reason we're doing that is for two reasons. The first reason is I want to look at pricing because of the phenomenon we've seen over the past couple years with Silver Age, Bronze Age, Copper Age, Modern, all the big keys over the past few years as we went from 2020 into the COVID era where they skyrocketed, and then coming out of it the past year, prices saw huge increases and now big decreases, some upwards of 50, 70% depending on the key issue. At the same time, when you look at Golden Age issues, especially the ones that are really, really desirable, they haven't seen that same effect. If anything, Golden Age really seems to be continuing to increase. So we're going to look at a bunch of GPA data and look at some of these most recent sales and kind of get an idea as to whether or not we're seeing prices continuing to increase on the Golden Age side, or are they starting to decrease? Is it starting, the effect we see on the other eras starting to creep into Golden Age? So that's the first reason. The second reason is within Comic Connect, there was a specific collection that was auctioned off, and it was an original owner collection called the Bobby Blue Collection, and it had amazing books. Lots of key issues from the Golden Age, whether it's pre-code horror or superhero stuff, lots and lots of stuff. Great, great stuff. Okay, so we're going to look at some of those sale prices, and then we're going to look at some of the other Golden Age stuff that was not part of that original owner collection. Still really good books, but the reason for doing that is because I want to understand, are people paying a premium for a label, a notation on a label? And remember, this original owner collection, this Bobby Blue collection, it's not a pedigree. It's just a notation on a label, which is still, an amazing collection, right? You don't come across really nice original owner collections like this very often, right? It's a once every few years, I don't know. Could be a once in a lifetime type of collection, especially for the guys who bought it. So we're going to kind of do that comparison. It's going to be a tough comparison, right? But I think I've got enough data to formulate an opinion by the end of the video, and really curious to hear some feedback from all of you. But without further ado, let's get into it and start looking at the data. Okay, so here you see, this is the Comic Connect website, and this is kind of the highlights of the auction itself. You can see a ton of Golden Age stuff, and you see here the Bobby Blue collection highlights and some of the books, and then you see some other books that were not part of that collection as well that were also auctioned off. So here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go through 9 books from the Bobby Blue collection, and then I've got 3 or 4 books that were outside of the collection that were also sold, and we're just going to look at some of the sales data and try to understand, do we see any kind of trends here in terms of people paying a premium for a notation on a label? All right, first book is Mr. Mystery number 6. Amazing book, very desirable, highly sought after. You can see here the lady, bondage cover, very classic cover by Tony Mortellaro, and I do not know if I said that right, but anyway, you can see the person here. She's tied up and she's on the spinning wheel, and these creepy guys here are cranking the wheel, and it looks like she's going to go into this boiling pot of whatever, and you see her, whether that's, I don't know, boyfriend, husband up there being held back, so he has to watch. Just a brutal cover, but again, highly sought after. Okay, so this book, again, this is from the Bobby Blue collection. You can see it down here, right? This book sold for $32,775, so just under $33,000. And you see a comment here that says 15% buyer's premium will be added. This includes the premium. I went and double checked on that. So all these numbers include the premium, which is what should be shown on the GPA website. And as of today, GPA still has not reflected these prices yet. Typically, and it's been a few days since this sold, typically GPA puts prices in within a day or two, but maybe with Comic Connect it takes a little bit longer to get in. So let's go look and see at previous sales for Mr. Mystery number 6. So here we have the GPA data. And if you look, okay, sorry, what was this again? It was an 8.0. If you go and look at the history of sales, the last 8.0 sold for $1,265, but it was back in 2003. So hard to make a good comparison of that, right? So the 8.0 is the highest graded on the census. So this is a very, very hard to find book. But if we try to find something here that was a more recent sale, here's something last year, a little less than a year ago, October of 2022, a 3.0 sold for $2,280. Do you think so? So how do you compare an 8.0 and a 3.0? Tough to do, right? But if the 3.0 sold for a little over $2,000, does it make sense for an 8.0 to sell for $32,000? I don't know. We know what we say, right? A book is only as valuable as a person is willing to pay. So make your own conclusion on that. That seems extremely high for that price, but it is what it is, right? Almost $33,000 for this 8.0, highest graded. There's another 8.0 as well, so this is one of two that are at an 8.0. Amazingly high price. All right, so that's the first book. The next book, it's another Mr. Mystery. This one is definitely a more classic cover. It's got the eyeball cover with this hot poker going towards it. It's a 6.0, and it sold for a little over $14,000. All right, again, right, part of the Bobby Blue collection. All of these are going to be. And then at the end, I'm going to go through 3 or 4 that are not part of the Bobby Blue. Okay, so what does GPA say? So that one, that 6.0, right? 6.0 sold for $14,000. Let's see. That looks, according to GPA, the first 6.0 that sold. So there was an 8.0 that sold for $36,000 almost 2 years ago. Huge price. And the most recent, okay, so here's June of this year. So 2 months ago, a 3.0 sold for $6,000. So if a 3.0 sold for $6,000, 2 months later, a 6.0 going for $14,000 seems kind of in line, I would say. I wouldn't call it ridiculous by any means. Obviously, it's a lot of money, but maybe we would consider this one a somewhat reasonable price, right? Okay. Next book, Mask Number 1. Oh, I did not want to show that. I want to show the cover. Mask Number 1, classic L.B. Cole cover. Again, highly desirable Bobby Blue collection. You can see the notation on these on the labels here. Again, right? They are not pedigrees. They are just a notation on the label because it's an original owner collection. All right, but still very impressive. So this was really nice, 7.5. So what does GPA say? Okay, sorry. Sold for $54,625. Amazing price. Okay, 7.5, $54,000. It looks like this is the first 7.5 that has sold. There was an 8.5 from the Promise collection, if you remember that one. That is an actual pedigree, and those prices were going bonkers, sold for $144,000. So if you look at non-pedigree, the closest thing to a 7.5 is this 7.0 sold for $2,000, but that was 10 years ago, 2013. So if I look at a most recent sale, this is a little over a year ago in 2022. A 5.5 sold for $24,000. So if you take a 5.5 at $24,000 and you go up to a 7.5 a year later, is $54,000 reasonable? Maybe. It's the third highest graded book on the census. I don't know. It's a lot of money. Considering that pedigree, that 8.5 one for $144,000, maybe this isn't too crazy of a price. Still, a lot of money. All right. Next one, Chamber of Chills. Unbelievable classic cover here with the famous glass showing the skull face behind it. Lee Elias cover from Harvey. And this 7.5 sold for $31,000. Again, part of the Bobby Blue collection. $31,000 for 7.5. This one has a little bit more data on it. All right, so it must be a little bit more of an available book. Again, what was it again? Okay, $31,000 for 7.5. When we look at the most recent 7.5, no, it was back in 2005, so we can't look at that data. Look at that, $124 back in 2005. I know, we all wish we had time travel machines, right? That's what every comic collector thinks, and probably other collecting hobbies as well. Okay, so here's a 6.5. Last year, a little over a year ago in 2022, 6.5 sold for $18,000. So, does it make sense a year later for a 7.5 to go as high as $31,000? Seems a little high to me, but maybe not outrageous. Still a very, very strong price, but you get the point here. All these books are going for more money than they had previously. So even within the same calendar year, right? I know this one was a little bit of a year off and it's a grade higher, but that's a lot of money. My mind, what we've looked at so far, these Golden Age key issues continue to increase in value. But again, these are all part of the Bobby Blue collection. And stay tuned. Watch what I do at the end here when I show the 4 books that are not part of this collection and see if it shows a different story. Okay, here's an interesting one. Captain America number 3. So the third appearance of Captain America. Actually, I don't know if it's the third appearance of Captain America, no, or not. I know issue 1 was. I don't know if he showed up in any other storyline. Regardless, Captain America Comics number 3, very hard to come by. It's a 0.5 because the centerfold is missing. Okay? That 0.5 still sold for over $15,000. So when we look at GPA and you go down to 0.5, so there are a lot of 0.5s in here that are based on selling the pages only. We're not looking at that data. We're looking at the 0.5 that's incomplete, right? Just like the book that just sold from the Bobby Blue collection. And oh, by the way, I want to state something here. This does not have the notation of the Bobby Blue collection, and I think it's because the space was taken up in order to put the note of the centerfold missing. But when you look here at the bottom, it says it is absolutely part of the Bobby Blue collection. So it is, even though it's not on the label. I'm not sure why they couldn't fit it on there or not. I've seen them put 2 lines of writing of text on labels before in this area, but for some reason they didn't do it here. Anyway, 0.5, $15,000. When we look at the last incomplete, so 4 years ago in 2019, a 0.5 was $5,000. So a heck of a lot more than that sale from 4 years ago. If I try to find something a little more recent, that's a little higher grade, here's January of 2021, so about 2.5 years ago, a 2.0 sold for $18,000. So for a 0.5 that's missing a centerfold, an incomplete book, to sell for over $15,000, kind of creeping up on $16,000, that seems like a crazy price to me. But who am I, right? Like I said, if someone wants that book, collector, and they want it from this Bobby Blue collection, they're going to pay whatever they want to pay to get that. So I think we're starting to see a trend here where maybe this original owner collection is commanding a bit of a premium. All right, next book. Awesome book, All Select Comics number 1 from 1943. Again, here's the notation, Bobby Blue collection. Sold for $29,000. And what does GPA tell us here? If we look, 7.0. Let's go to a 7.0, which was sold just earlier this year in March of 2023. So what, 4 or 5 months ago? $28,800. So this is just slightly higher than that. That was a 7.0, right? Yeah, 7.0. It seems in line. So this is an example where, maybe maybe this one didn't get the premium that some of the other ones are seeing for whatever reason. And I didn't dive into this other 7.0 that sold earlier in the year to see if, um, it had something special with it. And if we look at past sales, even the year before in 2022, it sold for even higher, $31,000. So this one's a little bit odd. I would say this is the one where it's not showing the same trend as the others from this original owner collection. Okay, so All Select Comics #1, great book, strong price, but not the premium we've seen on the others. Okay, only a couple more on these, then we're going to get into the non-Bobby Blue collection books. Mad #1 from EC. Again, another desirable book. And this is from 1952, Bobby Blue collection, 6.5, sold for $3,105. So not a huge price tag on that. What does GPA say for a 6.5? Well, the last 6.5 sold a little less than 4 years ago for $2,300 compared to this $3,100. So for sure, and then earlier, a little less than a year ago, 6.0 sold for $2,900. So this 6.5 only selling for $3,100 actually seems kind of in line with other prices. So here's another example where maybe the original owner label didn't command a premium. Okay, so we've got a couple examples now. Okay, here's just an awesome book, Detective Comics #73. This is not the first appearance of the Scarecrow, but it's his first and only appearance on the cover of a Golden Age book. Just an awesome, awesome cover. And it's a 5.5, and it sold for $10,580. What's GPA say? Last 5.5 sold a little over a year ago for $9,400. So what's that? An increase of little over $1,000. Not bad, right? Price is still going up on a big key issue like that. Didn't skyrocket, so maybe a little bit of a premium on this, or maybe not, right? Maybe the book would have risen even without the Bobby Blue notation on there. Strong price. Regardless, the price keeps going up. All right. And then the last book, and the most interesting one, I think, of this auction for the Bobby Blue collection is Crime Suspense Stories #2. So classic decapitation cover, and done by Johnny Craig. And it's a 6.5, and it sold for $24,000. So the last sale of a 6.5 was 2 years ago. So unfortunately, the closest we have is a 6.0, so only one grade lower, and it sold just 2 months ago in June for $10,800. And that was an increase from the previous sale. You can see here how this book just continues to go up, right? So $10,800 was a big increase over the other highest sale price of $87.99, so $8,800. So you would think 10,800, pretty strong, right? But when you compare it to this sale, and I get it, it's 0.5 points higher, right? 1 point higher, 1 grade higher, I should say, half point. Going from 10,800 up to $24,000, this is a huge head scratcher to me. This is not a super rare book like some of the other ones, yet it more than doubled in price from the 6.0. Very, very strange to me. So maybe there were 2 or 3 people in the auction that just wanted this book more than anything else, and they weren't going to stop bidding. So I don't know how to check to see if these things got paid for or not, but this one just seems more odd than the others. Okay, so those are the 9 books from the Bobby Blue collection that I picked out. Now we're going to get into 4 books that were not part of the collection. Kind of my feeling after looking at these 9 books is you've got a lot of them that almost all of them are showing increases from previous sales. Some of them a lot higher than others, right? So my takeaway is that this shows that Golden Age books are still very, very strong. Prices are continuing to increase, and there's a premium, definitely a premium on some of these books for being part of this original owner collection. Okay, now let's get into some of the other big Golden Age books that was part of the Comic Connect auction. First one being Captain America number 74. So this is one of 2 books during the Captain America run as it was coming towards an end that had this weird Tales notation on the cover. And it was kind of getting into the whole pre-code horror genre. And this is definitely the more valuable of the 2 because it has the Red Skull on the cover. It just fantastic looking cover here. And you know what? I'm not sure who does the cover. It doesn't say here. This is an older label, so maybe now they have the artist information on it. I don't know who does it. But actually, let's look it up in GPA on the census and see if it shows it now. Hopefully this doesn't screw anything up. It just says, Martin Nodell cover. Interesting. I don't know that name, but it's definitely an amazing cover. So this 5.0 sold for $14,612. So let's look at GPA. What is happening with other Golden Age books that weren't part of this original owner collection? So if we go to GPA, 5.0, last sale just earlier this year, a few months ago, sold for $17,000. So this one only selling for $14,600, and this is a huge key issue. Don't get me wrong, you guys, people want this book. Collectors want this book. It is extremely desirable. The price went down. Comic Connect, same auction as all these other books. And if we look at some of the other GPA data, I think there was one other point I wanted to look at. A 4.5 a year ago, so 1 grade less than the one that just sold for $19,200, so even higher. Again, maybe there was something specific with the book that made the 4.5, command such a high price. But, 1 grade higher, 5.0, selling for a lot less than that 4.5 and selling less than the 5.0 that sold earlier this year. So here's a data point where the price is actually going down on a big key issue from the Golden Age. All right, so that's book number 1. Book number 2, and again, these weren't cherry-picked books. I just picked books that were desirable by collectors and the hobby. Okay, Human Torch number 2. It says number 3, but it's number 2. It's a 9.0, very high grade, sold for $12,200. I'm actually surprised. I thought that price might be a little higher. Trying to show you guys a close-up of the cover here. Really nice looking book. Just beautiful. Schomburg cover. So, people love Alex Schomburg covers. And there's an ad in this book. This is an important book because it's an ad for Captain America Comics number 1. So this is before Captain America's first appearance, because his first appearance was in Captain America Comics number 1. So anyway, 9.0, $12,200. What does GPA say? Well, the last 9.0 sold a little less than a year ago, December of 2022, for $9,520. So remember, this sold for $12,200. The last one sold for $9,500. The last 9.0 2 years earlier, so 3 years ago, sold for $9,000. So considering you had a $9,000 sale in 2020, and then this one sold for $12,000, I'm surprised the increase isn't higher, to be honest with you. I think this sale last December of only $9,500 might have been a little bit of a steal, and this one kind of got it in line. So good example of a price or a book that seems to still be on the rise. Okay, 2 more books. Here we go. All Winners Comics number 21, another 9.0. This is the last issue from the title. It's a bondage cover, and it sold for $9,000, a little over $9,000. Again, a 9.0. When we look at the last 9.0, sold a little over 2 years ago, and it sold for $11,000. This one sold for $9,000, so we see a drop, and not sure why. It's a very collectible comic, last one of the run, high grade. Seems like someone got a really good price on it. So, little bit surprised, and and by the way, I looked it up. It's the same book. It's got the same certification number on here. So this book sold 2 years ago for more money than it sold for at this last auction. So another example of a drop on a big book. All right, and finally the last one, really big book, Sensation Comics number 1. No, this is not the first appearance of Wonder Woman, but it is her second appearance, and it's a really solid grade, a 6.0, off-white to white pages, sold for $58,000. It's a big price tag, isn't it? But not when you look at GPA. The last 6.0 sold just a year ago for $86,000, and this one sold for $58,000. So almost a $30,000 drop on that book. And also, if we look at a 5.5, so that is the most recent sale, March of this year, so 5 months ago, 5.0 sold for $40,000. So my point is, this book is declining, right? When you look at different grades, you know, if a 6.0 sold for, what did I say, 80-some thousand dollars? Where was it? $86,000 a year ago, and now we have a 6.0 selling for 30 grand less, and a 5.5 selling for like almost 40 grand less, or whatever it was. This book is declining. So those are all the comparisons I wanted to make. Again, when you look at Golden Age sales data, it is very difficult to have a clear-cut trend. But what I get out of this is, when we looked at all the Bobby Blue collection books, most of those books showed an increase over the last sale, and some of them showed a huge increase over the last sale, which I think kind of concludes that there is a premium on that notation being on the label and being from an original owner collection. And then when we looked at the 4 really big books that weren't part of that collection, we're seeing out of 3 of the 4, we're seeing a decline starting to happen. We're definitely not seeing huge increases like we're seeing on some of the other ones. So I don't know, make your own opinion, formulate your conclusions. That's all I had for today. I hope you enjoyed this. I know I went through a lot of data and showed a lot of books, but I enjoy doing this. I look at a ton of GPA data and sales data. I wish GPA would encompass more sales data from other groups. I'm still waiting for them to start including Comic Link, but those two have got to work that out somehow. But Golden Age is still extremely strong, but I think we're starting to see some signs that not all Golden Age key issues are increasing. We're seeing some of them start to cut back. And outside of, pedigrees and original owner collections, that Crime Suspense Stories number 22 with that huge sale price just boggles my mind. And I know there's a lot of chatter on Instagram about that as well. But Golden Age still very strong, but we're starting to see a little bit of what we're seeing in the other eras kind of flow into the Golden Age. At least that's my takeaway. All right, at least a little bit. So we'll see if that continues. But that's it I have for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I did. Leave me comments. Find me on Instagram or my website, my eBay store. I'm selling thousands of books all the time. But just reach out and chat. I like doing that too. So until next time, have a great day.